Welcome to Speaking from Experience. I'm your host, Vishaka Kumar from the Intercultural Skills Lab at the Rotman School of Management, University of Toronto. On this show, we invite graduates of our Business Edge program to share their experiences moving to Canada and building their careers as newcomers. We've heard a lot in the past 4 episodes about the challenge of moving to Canada with a strong resume and still being told you don't have enough Canadian experience. So today, I thought I'd bring you the story of a former participant who never hit that speed bump. This is Emmanuel Ademola, a newcomer from Nigeria who is now a senior audit manager at CIBC. He graduated from our Business Edge Finance program in 2022.
Speaking from experience, Canadians are supportive. Once you show them that you're genuine and you're ready to put in the work to ensure that the goal is achieved.
Emmanuel moved to Canada at one of the toughest times possible, right as the second wave of COVID was spreading across the country in November of 2020. But as you'll hear, nothing, even frostbite, was going to stop Emmanuel from transferring his skills to the Canadian market. Hi, Emmanuel. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is going to be such a wonderful opportunity for us to hear from you and learn from your journey so far. So, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Happy to be here, Vishaka. And I would say thank you for reaching out to me. It's a great honor to be on your podcast with you. So my name is Emmanuel. My surname is hard to understand and pronounce if you're not from Nigeria, but it's Ademola. What it means is wealth on a crown. And like I said, I'm from Nigeria, and I currently work with CIBC as an audit manager, and I've had over 7 years in the finance industry as a consultant, an external auditor, and a value for money consultant too.
A value for money consultant.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what that title means?
Yeah, it's a glorified way for, say, you do more in-depth review, right? So in this situation, most people in my field are actually more of an expert in just financial, right? But for value for money, you're looking at the benchmarking piece, you're looking at the value flow piece, you're looking at the financial piece, you're looking at the governance piece, and you're looking at the regulatory piece. So it's more like an overview end-to-end process and financial review of an organization or a key business process.
And was this something you have experience in, or is this a role that you found yourself in for the first time when you came here?
Yeah, so for value for money, I didn't do that in Canada. I did that back in Nigeria. And to your question, I actually just found myself in it. It's a weird story. So I came into this organization to do consulting and financial accounting, but we got this client that wanted us to do a more in-depth review. They wanted us to, ensure that the process they had was efficient, effective, and, had economy. So we had to go for training, understand what expectation is from value for money expert. And then I did 2 or 3, I did like 3 different big engagement, and that was what gave me that insight into what the expectation is from that point of view, right? And that kind of made me an expert in that field.
So tell me a bit about your working life back in Nigeria.
I'll break it into 2 different situations. So in Nigeria, I worked with a mid-tier firm, and then I worked with a big 4. So in the mid-tier firm, work-life balance was more encouraged. Yeah. So you go to work, you get to work by 9, you're probably done with work around 6 at the latest, right? The pressure was not as crazy as the big 4, which is understandable because the big 4 have the brand, and then they have their own specialized methodology that you have to align with. So, if that makes sense. Back to the big 4. It was fast-paced, that's the word. Because number 1, you're competing with the best minds. Number 2, you have to protect the brand. Number 3, you have to ensure that you're working in accordance with the methodology. But that was key because that prepared me for a lot of my experience here back in Canada, because it's the same thing at the end of the day. You're performing whatever review, you're performing in accordance with the global expectation, methodology that is expected for the organization. And that's the way it is in audits. So Big Four prepared me for the most part for the work. And I said professional expectation. I don't think I want to go back to Big Four because as much as it was fun, it was a lot. But what I would say is that experience is key. At least it was for me, because from Big Four, you learn how to collaborate with different teams. You learn how to collaborate, not just with people from your country, you learn how to collaborate with people from other countries. So it gives you that global view, which Canada is all about. And also getting to work with the best mind and, fast-paced environment was key for me, because I feel like if I didn't have that experience, I might have struggled a little bit, adapting to the professional environment here in Canada. Yeah.
So why don't you take me through that journey about what brought you here?
That's going to be interesting. I know a lot of people come and say they were looking for greener pastures. I think mine was just different. I guess my whole life prepared me for moving to Canada. So I went to uni. While I was in uni, I did accounting. I read agriculture in university, and then while I was in university, I was like, okay, do I want to settle for agriculture or do something different? At that point, I decided to start doing a certification in accounting, right? It was so good that I did that because that added to my points to come to Canada. But I didn't have that at the point of my mind when I was doing it. So that's why I said I think my whole life journey kind of prepared me for my trip to Canada. It just happened. You get what I mean? And I left uni, I got my certification both in, my degree and then my certification in accounting. And then I got a job in consulting. From consulting, I graduated into, a mid-tier accounting, which was BDO. And then from that, I graduated to PwC. So it was like I was building on my previous experience. So I went to a mid-tier firm, then went to a bigger one so I could learn how to work with people better, understand how to, compete on a global space. Then I went to PwC, which was, you get what I mean? And get this, applying to Canada, you actually need work experience from key places that can be verifiable to actually get the additional points you need, that would help you get the threshold score to be called for the permanent residency. So it feels like all my life I didn't know or was pushing, but it feels like I've been working towards coming to Canada. And the question you asked was, how did I make that decision? To be honest with you, it wasn't like it was a day where I just sat down one day and said, I want to go to Canada. No, I guess maybe I had friends that had moved, and then my brother, my sister, they had moved too. So I was just looking like, what is the best place to go if it's not Nigeria? And then probably help improve the likelihood of me having a great future. And it was Canada. I had the option of either the UK, the US, and Canada. And I think I just weighed the pros and the cons, and kind of just fitted best to the kind of person I am and my expectation of the kind of future I wanted for myself and for my family. And yeah, that's why you have me here talking to you now.
So you feel like it wasn't necessarily fully planned out. And I'm guessing from most of your career, you kind of jump into something and then realize you want to improve on one specific thing. And then that kind of leads you to the next adventure. Thank you for sharing that. So you've gotten your permanent residency and you come here. And what are the initial few days or weeks or months like?
Initial few days and months were interesting. I think the first week I actually landed, I got a frostbite. I didn't know Canada was going to be that cold. I'm the first person in my family traveling to Canada, so it was a little bit harder to integrate into the society. I don't want to say integrate, actually. I think I would use the word settle. It was a little bit harder to settle, right? Because I didn't know anyone. It was just me. I had friends, but family sticks closer than friends. So I came in winter also. So that was, I guess I didn't plan it well, but I didn't have a chance. I had to travel. And then I went to the bank. And at that point, I didn't have a bank account yet. So I had to go to the bank to get a bank account. Trying to figure my way out back to the hotel I was staying. I missed my way. And I did not have a phone. I didn't have a SIM at that point. So getting back home I had to walk for like 1 hour in snow. And then I was walking the opposite side of my hotel. So yeah, it's a lot. But I think that's one of the experience I had that I think that I shouldn't have had.
Yeah.
Boy, it happened, but I learned from it. So going forward, I know what to do.
Which year did you move into?
I moved into Canada in 2020, November 2020 to be exact. And
Yeah.
I did not get an apartment until March 2021.
Yeah.
Typically 4 months before I got an apartment.
And you've
Uh,
also moved in a very
very,
interesting time, which is the
yeah,
pandemic and the
yeah,
lockdown. So what was that
exactly.
like?
It was okay because I mean I wasn't exposed to the extreme weather, so I didn't have to go out a lot. So I had just one frostbite, which is good. I
Yeah.
didn't have more than one, right? So that was that. And then most of the interviews I had were virtual, so that was okay. I guess the only difference was you didn't have this personal touch that you would have had if you had to go into the office to meet with someone to have a conversation. So maybe that a little bit made it slower for me to make friends that I did not know before, right? Maybe I think now it's better because even if you don't have to go into the office, you still do hybrid once in a while. So that makes it easier for you to integrate into the work environment and the organization.
So tell me about that job search.
Yeah,
So it took you how many months? So you said November 2020. So about
yeah.
5 months to get an apartment. How long did it take you to find your
So
first employment?
that was the easy part because I got a job within 1 month.
Wow.
Yeah, but I think it was because I had good experience, work experience in the Big Four and a BDO. So I think that helped. To be honest with you, my advice would be for anyone coming, if you can get experience in a global firm, that helps. Because at the end of the day, when you work, regardless of the country you're working in, you get to cross relate with every organization or every region where your firm is related. So that gives you kind of understand how other people think, the cultural differences. You might not understand it in depth, but to an extent that helps. And when people see that on your CV, they know that you're going to be able to perform. If you can perform and then work in that kind of organization, you will be able to, at the barest minimum, perform up to expectation. So that helped. But my first job, I was coming from PwC where I was a senior associate, and the first job I got was a junior accountant role, which is 2 steps lower than where I was. But because I knew it was a stepping stone to what I wanted, I took it. And I did the job for just 2 months. So it was a contract role for 3 months. Within 2 months, I got the job I wanted, which was a senior associate role in Baker Tilly, which is exactly the same role I was doing back in Nigeria before I traveled to Canada. So I think the takeaway here should be understand your career path, yes, but be willing to take a step lower if the opportunity comes, because at the end of the day, you would still get the promotion or that you would be able to progress in your career path so far you're posting the work.
I will come to the progression piece in a bit, but
Yeah.
I also had a question which has sort of come up multiple times where I've spoken to other participants and they also worked for huge firms and they've had experience working in several other markets before coming to Canada, but they were constantly told that you don't have Canadian experience and therefore it's not valid. And I'm just curious to know if that was ever a response that you got in your very short job search.
Yeah, it wasn't that short. It was 1 month. Personally, I did not get that. So
Mhm.
it's either I wasn't called for the interview, so I wouldn't know why. You get what I mean? So it could be the Canadian experience, but for me personally, I did not experience that. But that doesn't mean it's not something that's prevalent in the market right now. Not now, maybe in the past and even in present. But I know one thing I know people also go through, it's not just the Canadian experience, it's the Canadian certification. For me, I think it was easier, like I said, because I had Big Four experience. But I'm sure there are people without Big Four that had Big Four experience that they would probably have been asking for, like in my line of profession, a CPA from Canada. I'm a chartered accountant from Nigeria, but because my license or my certification is restricted to just the Nigerian market, I am not licensed to practice, or my certification doesn't really carry water in Canada. But there is always a similarity between what is done around the world, especially when it comes to accounting. And in most professions anyways, to be honest with you. And I think the restriction into Canadian market is a little bit high. But that being said, for people that are coming in, one key thing to look into is what is the expectation for the career you're willing to grow into in Canada and work towards getting it. Because once you do, it makes it easier for you to break into the job markets. And that's true. You get what I mean? So once they see that you have that certification that is required and is accepted in these markets, it makes it easier for you to get a role that suits your skills.
Now, I'm going back to your sort of, again, quick progression within, and this is also in CIBC, if I'm not mistaken, when you were able to sort of move from the role you had initially joined in, which was a junior role, to a role that was quite similar to what you were holding back in Nigeria.
Yeah.
What did it take for you to make that progression? Like, did you notice that you had to do something specific, or what did you do, if you can remember?
Okay, so just to clarify, so I moved from the junior accountant role to a senior accountant, senior audit in Baker Tilly. So I moved from Baker Tilly now to CIBC where I am right now. So I have 3 jobs in Canada, right? Yeah, within the space of 3 years, which is good. To your question on what did I do to progress into the role that suited my skills or that was at par with what I was doing back in Nigeria or back home, I think it was more of networking. I spoke to the right people, made the right connections, and then it was on that basis that I was able to be considered for that role, and then I was invited for the interview. So once you can get to the point where you're being considered for the interview, then it's left to you to go and demonstrate that you have the required skills, the required knowledge, and the required experience to perform if you get the role. So what got me to that pace was networking with the right people, sending my CVs to be considered the right people, and then that got me to the gates, and then from there, that's okay.
And was that something you were comfortable doing, networking?
I'm saying no. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's just the kind of person I am. So I'm used to getting things done on my own. That's one. And number 2, I'm used to also being the person that people come to when they have problems. It's most people are like that, because you think you have what it takes to succeed. But that's one thing Canada is big on. It's big on teamwork. You need to, and then it's big on letting people know when you need help. It's not a sign of weakness. So that was one thing I had to let go of. I must say, I had to reach out to people, and one thing I try to do post that period is because I understand the process now. When people reach out to me, I try to help, at least to the best of my ability, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to grow the economy. So if you see someone that has the required skill to help that happen, you get it. You just have to do it. You understand? Help as much as you can. And then it's a collective.
I'm very curious because I feel like you are making a lot of quick progress. And I only say this because I have spoken to several other participants where it's sort of taken them a bit longer. And I'm wondering, do you think if it's the industry you're in, or is it just the skill set you came with? What do you think is it that's sort of been your biggest strength?
So I don't think it's the industry. Okay, I'm saying that because right now I'm being considered for a promotion. So it's not the industry, yes. And normally people in my role spend 2 to 3 years before you have been considered, or even 4 or 5. So I don't want to say it's the industry. So yes, if you're in the external audit industry, the expectation is that yes, you grow more faster than when you're in, we call it the industry. That's when you're working, you're an external auditor, right? So it's faster that way. But I think it's more of the skills and the personality. I'm saying that because even if you have the skills and you don't have the personality, you understand what I mean? It's just, you know what to do, but can you relate this well to management? Can people work well with you? Are you the kind of person that gets the work done? You understand what I mean? So yes, this, hard core skills is key, but soft skills is key too. So I think a combination and a balance of the two helps with people. I don't want to say me because I don't know what I'm doing right, But when you balance it to the expectation is that you would go fast in your and make connections. Make connections where people will remember you for the work that you've done. And then on that basis, make recommendation. You recommend you for better roles.
Is there a soft skill you feel like you could improve on, or you're sort of thinking about working on more?
I'll be sincere. So I'm big on sincerity, yes. So I think I can actually improve on my presentation skills. And that's the truth, because in Canada, you do a lot of presentations, especially when you get to a certain level in your career. You get what I mean? Then now you probably are meeting with VPs, you're meeting with senior executives, either on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, actually, depending on your role. And being able to present an idea in such a way that they can understand without going into details is a good skill to have. So that's one thing I am working on to make sure that I get better. And it's an ongoing process. Hopefully I get there one day. And the way I try to get better is listening when people do their presentation. So what you can learn from there. When you do your own presentation, then take what you've learned, apply that, and if you need to ask for feedback, I don't ask for feedback though. I don't. That's a cut that part. But I'm just saying. But that's the right thing to do. But if if you're comfortable with a person, then what I do is I learn from people and then I apply, and then you can see that you're getting better because the reception is way more better than it was. So presentation skills is one. And that ties to communication skills too, because we do a lot of talking in Canada, and what I'm used to. So that's one key thing. Networking is key. I know I already mentioned it one time, but you have no idea how key that is until you see it work for you. Don't put yourself in a box. Don't say because you're working in a unit you don't want to interact with people from other units. You never know the next big opportunity might be coming from that other, and based on your network, then you get positioned to be the right person to take the role. And that's how you progress and get to where you want to go to. Those are very two key things, and understanding the multiculturalism of the workplace in Canada, because there is a high likelihood that on your team you have 4 different cultures. There is a high likelihood. It's not even, there is a 70% likelihood that you have 4 different cultures on you. So being able to work with different people from different space is key. And being able to understand that, yes, you might have differences in opinion, but using the differences in your opinion to learn how to make the team better is one of the other key skills that is good to have.
So I'm curious, what do you think you would say is your biggest piece of advice to people who are maybe in that stage, like considering moving to Canada, but are worried about what their careers and their futures will look like? What is something you'd like to share with them?
Yeah. One key thing is you never know what the future holds. Right? So be open. Be open to take the risk, be open to take the opportunity, because and I don't want to generalize. So I don't think I've met anyone that has traveled to Canada and has been worse off. Most of the people that I know, I would use that word, that I know, have been better off. So take the risk, assess it, and don't travel because other people are traveling. If it aligns with your expectation, when I mean expectation, what do you want from your family life? What do you want from your career? What do you want from your finances? You understand what I mean? Then if it aligns, then take that leap. There is a high likelihood that you're better off for it. Definitely before you take the risk, understand the market. All
right. Thank you so much for making the time to speak with me. This was such a great and interesting story for me to learn about, and I look forward to following your career journey.
It was a fun conversation, and thank you for making it, you made it easy.
Thank you for listening to Speaking from Experience. I'm Vishaka Kumar from the Rotman School of Management's Intercultural Skills Lab. For more information about our programs, please click the link in the show notes or follow us on LinkedIn. That's where we post all our updates. Thank you to Emmanuel Ademola for sharing his incredible story with us for this episode. This podcast is recorded and produced by me, Vishaka Kumar. Avery Moore Kloss is our podcast editor. Speaking from Experience is supported by the Rotman Intercultural Skills Lab at the University of Toronto, which promotes a deeper understanding of intercultural competencies for professionals. Thank you for listening.